morning. Coming off of vacation, a little tough for us today, guys. We got a lot going on. Super excited to be here live. So excited that you guys joined us last week. Although it was a pre-recorded message, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what you got out of that series. Helped you. Yard. We're going to go live here in about 4 minutes, guys. Gotta get my coffee. Sheree's still getting herself together. Do me a favor, tag somebody, share this out to as many people as possible, and we'll be back with you guys in about 4 minutes. I want y'all to tag somebody. Also, do me a favor, drop your city, state, what's the weather like in your neck of the woods, and let's keep it moving. Great morning. For those of you guys who are just jumping on, my name's Brooks Jr. This is Breakfast with the Brooks, and Sheree and I will be with you guys in just a moment. I'm going to go live on Facebook for a quick second just to let everybody know that we're back, and we'll go from there. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned, share this out to a friend, and let's get it. Today we're going to be talking about boundaries, and I don't know if you've been in a relationship where there are none, but that's a difficult road to hoe, as my mom would used to say when I was a kid. I didn't know what that meant for a long time. Like, what does she mean by that? But anybody who's grown up on a farm or grown up in the country would know what that means all day long. Great morning, everybody. Great morning, great morning. Good to have everybody come on through. Do me a favor, invite somebody up here. We're going to go live on Facebook to invite a few folks. Y'all do the same. I'm good people. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. Let's get ready. Rumble. Let's get ready to get it. It's going to be good. If you're here, do me a favor, say good morning, say something so that we'll know who you are, where you are, and what city you're in, and we'll go from there. Great morning, everybody. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Glenn P. Brooks Jr. here. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. I am super excited. Sheree will be here in a minute. If you're just jumping on, do me a huge favor. We'll be back in a few moments. I want you to tag as many people as possible. Today, we're going to be talking about boundaries. I don't know if you've ever gone through anything in your relationship where you feel as though that the boundary lines are being blurred. You don't know where you stop and the other person begin. Sharia is going to be joining me here in a moment. We're trying to get ourselves back together after a long vacation. Shout out to all of you guys who showed up live with us, even though we technically wasn't live last week. We certainly excited that we were able to do a YouTube premiere and you guys were able to watch the last installment of a series that we did over the last month, and that was entitled, we were talking about intimacy, right? The 4 different kinds of intimacy, and we dealt with the physical intimacy. We're going to pick up just a little bit there just to kind of recap a little bit about how it was able to help you. If that was the case, then certainly want you to chime in on that. If you were here last week, put me in the chat. If you were here last week, put me in the chat. If you weren't here, put not me in the chat. Also, I'm gonna go grab my coffee real quick, but I just wanted, and Cherie will be here in a minute, but I just want to let everybody know, can you do me a huge favor? If you've not subscribed to the channel yet, whether you're here by replay or you're here live, I want you guys to make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before our 100th episode. We're 91 episodes in. Hey, Teresa, good to see you. What's going on? Dominic, great to have you guys. Thanks for jumping on. Nikkei, good to see you. Good to see you. I'm glad you guys were here last week. Yes, coffee, but first coffee. With that being said, I'll be right back. Y'all share this out, and Cherie and I'll be back in just one moment. What to do, everybody? Y'all ready to go? Y'all ready to go? Do me a favor, put ready in the chat if y'all ready to go. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. I'm Glenn Brooks Jr. I'm excited to be back. We're back live. Cherie is getting herself together. We're almost here. I appreciate y'all for hanging through. We're going to have a great conversation this morning. And hopefully you guys are ready. If you were here last week, I want you to put me in the chat. If you were not here last week, I want you to put not me in the chat. If you're here last week and you were here, put me in the chat. If you were not here last week, I want you to put not here. And the reason why is because I want to recap just a little bit and talk a little bit about what you guys got out of the physical boundary. I mean, not physical boundaries, physical intimacy. We talked about that last week. Ready is Freddy. So I'm waiting for Cherie to get herself together. She's trying to get Jack straight. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just go live and we'll figure it out. How about that? How about that? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. I'm super excited. As you can see, Cherie's in the background. Not here. Hey, Faith Hawkins. How are you? Faith, where are you from? I've seen you pop on our feeds in the past. Not sure if I know where you're from. Do me a favor, guys. I want you to put in the chat where you're from. I want you to put what city you're broadcasting or you're viewing this broadcast from. And then I also want you to put the weather in your city. I don't know. What is the weather here in Virginia Beach? Give me 1 second. It is 70 degrees. It's cloudy. And looks like there's a chance of thunderstorms later today here in Virginia Beach. What's the bring Jax on the show? Listen, I don't know what Jax's situation. He was in the kennel the whole time we were away. We may talk a little bit about that. Calvert County. What's up, Calvert County, Maryland? Great to see you. Love it when my DMV folks. Well, technically that's not DMV. That is actually Maryland. Anybody from the DMV knows that when they say the DMV, it's people who are in that southern area of Maryland, right next to the district. So I don't want to put everybody in that category, but it's great to see you, Faith. Great to see you. So real quick, guys, if you were here last week, we talked a little bit about the fourth element on the types of intimacy. And for your benefit, Faith, there are 4 types of intimacy. And last week, even though it was a pre-recorded show, we were able to go in and talk about, was last week okay for you guys with us not physically being there? Did it seem like it was live? I just want to get a little feedback before Cherie jumps on. Did that seem live to you? I mean, I'm sure you realized it wasn't after a while, but did it feel live? Just give me some honest feedback, because we often think about putting those up from time to time. And sometimes we're like, I don't know, because does it feel live? Especially if in times where we just physically cannot be there. What we don't want to do is we don't want to skip the show. We don't want to give y'all nothing. And in that regard. So if it felt live to you, just put yes in the chat. If it felt live to you. Hey, Tawana, great to see you. New Jersey representing. Glassboro, New Jersey representing. What's the temperature like that up there, Tawana? I appreciate that. Teresa. She said, yes, it seemed real. So one of the things I often struggle with, and these glasses are just glary. One of the things I often struggle with is content and making sure that it feels authentic. Sometimes even if it's not real, meaning we're not live, I need it to actually feel authentic. So I'm glad that Teresa thought so. Yes, Nikkei said yes. So today, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about a new subject. Actually, not to many of you guys who are in the MAPS community. It's not a new subject to y'all because we've talked about this before. But I want to talk. Dominic said, yeah, it was so real that I didn't know it wasn't. Oh, they asked for Jackson to come on the show.
Jack, say hi.
Jackson, can you say good?
That way.
Jackson, they're over there. They're over there. He's excited, y'all. We realize that sights and sounds amp him up. Y'all hear me? Sights and sounds amps this one up. So we are excited. So I'm going to settle down a little bit. You got your tea. I got my coffee. We're going to talk about boundaries this morning, babe. But before we get into that, I want to kind of recap on what we said a little bit last week. They said that it felt real. Matter of fact, Dominic didn't even know we weren't live.
Oh, that's great.
That's how real it felt. So that gives us some sort of background. Yeah, babe.
Well, first, I just want to say it's great to be back.
Yes, it is.
We had a wonderful time away with family. Jax went to doggy camp.
He went to doggy camp.
And he had a good time.
Why did one of our granddaughters said, where's
Jax?
Where's Jackson? We said, well, Jackson went to a doggy hotel.
Yeah.
And the little one said, well, I sure hope they are spoiling him.
And it's a 5-star.
And I hope, Pop, that it's a 5-star hotel for him. I said to myself, these bougie grandbabies we got, Lord Jesus, a 5-star doggy hotel. Well, when we got him, we picked him up, and he looked like he had a good time.
Yeah, they called, and they let me know he was doing okay, and so he had a good time, and we had a good time without him.
We sure did. What's up, Jeff from Clarksburg, Maryland? Good to see you, brother.
Right, but it's great to be back. Much needed break that we needed.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys for still tuning in last Saturday.
Even though we were not here physically.
Special shout out to our MAPS community who stayed in touch with each other over the week, who kept each other accountable, who stepped in our absence with any issues that anybody may have been going through. We actually support one another.
Yeah, we actually took a social media break, and I was off for 7 days, off of social media for 7 days. Never did anything like that before. And it wasn't that bad. There were times where, and I'll be honest, when I pick up my phone, I realize how much of a habit it is for me to check social media. So there were times I picked up my phone and literally tapped on the Facebook or literally tapped on the Instagram, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, bruh, you supposed to be on a fast. I don't know, and don't judge me, because I know some of y'all, you done been on a Daniel fast or some kind of fasting food situation, and you done messed around and ate something, talking about, oh my gosh,
right,
I forgot I was supposed to be on a fast. So that's about the only time I found myself really there, and just, but for the most part, we were able to maintain, and I think that the clarity that I got from that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that with our business community, was significant. I will say this: I wrote a whole outline for a brand new book, a whole lot outline from start to finish, and now all I need to do is go in and fill in the gaps, and looking to have a book talking about my journey in business cranked out before the end of the year, quite frankly. We may not release it at the end of the year, but it will be finished for sure. So that was one of the clarity moments that I got. And then the other thing, just being present with our family.
Right.
That was the best.
Yeah. We got to spend time with our kids, our daughter and our husband and our grandkids. Our son was there, and also our niece and soon-to-be nephew.
Soon-to-be nephew.
And so we had a really good time. We had a really great time with family, relaxing. The weather wasn't the best.
Not at all.
But it was actually probably good that it wasn't hot, because we got to just relax.
It forced us to stay inside. Yeah.
Running to the beach and doing this. I mean, we were able to walk to the beach. Where we stayed was a quick walk to the beach, literally across the street.
Yeah.
And so we got to go to the beach every day, but instead of that hustle and bustle with it being warm, everybody packing up, let's go hang out at the beach all day, we got to really just relax. We played games.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm trying to figure out how can we play some of these games online.
Right.
My daughter and my son-in-law are the king and queen of board games.
Yeah.
In terms of finding relevant stuff that isn't the old school stuff that we did. This stuff actually engages you. Yes. A lot of social type stuff. I mean, I realize I don't know nothing about Black Twitter. Oh my gosh. Black Twitter is a situation. And no, it was just really fun.
Yeah, the hot tub was really nice.
The hot tub, I didn't get in it. I wasn't brave enough.
Yeah. And our youngest granddaughter challenged everybody on the last night to a dance contest. You will not be seeing the video of that.
That was a mess.
You won't see the video of that.
No, I was going to chop up a little something, just to maybe a little clip, just to show.
It got to be real short.
Oh, okay.
Real short.
It exposed a few things. Let's just put it that way. Some people can't dance no more.
None of us are.
I'm sorry. Did I say that? Was I dry snitching? I
can't dance against a 6-year-old.
Listen, when she broke out the somersaults, was that the cartwheels? That's when we knew it was over.
Yeah.
That's when we knew.
She had a little something extra going on.
Yeah.
And our oldest, she's at that age where she's
worried about people judging her.
Yeah, so she's like, I ain't messing with y'all. She gonna dance on her terms.
Jackson,
when she wanna
you gotta calm down now, buddy.
You need to go eat. Put your food in there. Go eat.
Put them on the floor.
Go eat.
Yeah, you're not gonna be. Hey, you can't get up here, buddy. All right, guys. So let's get it. You were here last week. Give me some takeaways. Let's have a little interaction here before we get started. I want some takeaways on what you got out of last week's show. If you were here for any of the intimate series, what were your takeaways? What were some things that caused you to say, aha, I get it now, or I didn't know that? Put that in the chat. And for those of you guys who maybe are on, maybe this is your first time on, put first timer in the chat. I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach, and I'm sitting here next to the lovely light-skinned
Cherie Brooks Jr., author, speaker, and relationship coach. And as always, it's great to be with you on this lovely Saturday morning. So the last month, which concluded last week, we have been talking about intimacy. And last week's session, in particular, last week's show,
right?
Talking about session, was dealing with physical intimacy, and so physical intimacy is one of those topics that's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, primarily because when people think about physical intimacy, the first thing they think about is sex.
Yep.
And physical intimacy is so much more than just sex. It's a book by Gary Chapman that talks about sex.
By the way, it's not by Gary Chapman. Let me help you out.
Correct me.
It's called Sex Begins in the Kitchen, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I'll get it. I don't think it's on my. Is it on the shelf?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Cherie will get it.
It's not Gary Chapman?
No, Gary Chapman didn't write it.
No,
it's definitely.
It's the other
we had
guy.
him come speak at our church years and years ago.
The other guy.
The guy is phenomenal.
Lehman.
Yeah, Kevin Lehman. Kevin Lehman.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Lehman. I apologize.
yeah. So she was giving. I had to correct that.
Kevin Lehman.
Yeah.
Sex Begins in the Kitchen. Great book. If you're struggling with.
I don't know if they can't see it because of the way the lighting goes. You have to turn it this way.
Okay, Sex Begins in the Kitchen by Kevin Lehman. Great book if you're struggling with intimacy in your relationship. It's an excellent book, and it talks about how physical intimacy is not just sex.
Right.
How it starts, how women think about physical intimacy, how men think about physical intimacy, and it helps you to be able to, the subtitle is because love is an all-day affair. And physical intimacy is something that's an ongoing thing. It's not even just with your spouse or your significant other. You should have physical intimacy with your children. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say it's not sex.
Right.
And we have to get rid of that mindset that physical intimacy just means sex. It's so much more than that.
Yep.
It's showing physical affection. It's being in somebody's presence. It's enjoying being in their presence. That's showing physical intimacy. And so we talked about that on last week's show.
Yeah, we talked about how oftentimes it starts by just understanding and honoring people's proximity. So there are times where physical intimacy has everything to do with the fact that if Cherie invites me to sit down with her on the couch, that I'm open to doing that. You know how like you'll sit down in a living room and typically what will happen is everybody has, quote, their favorite chair. Hey, Christine Psalms, good morning. And what happens is if you ever look at it, oftentimes we create social distancing regularly, long before it was a thing, because everybody tends to gravitate towards their spot, right? Well, when it comes to nurturing physical intimacy, the challenge with that is that it doesn't lend to intimacy because intimacy is closeness.
Right.
And so if you are separated, thus you're not intimate or you're not being intimate. Right. And so with that being said, what we talked about last week was just what does it look like to do that? So proximity is all about, hey, can you come sit next to me?
Right.
That's an act of trying to nurture your physical intimacy. And I think that when you think that way, it begins to foster and solidify your physical intimacy. So what were some takeaways, guys? I asked the question, and y'all are caught up talking about Jackson and everything else. I love it, Teresa. It isn't just a physical thing. It's emotional and spiritual also. Yes. Anybody else? Takeaways from last week? Takeaways from this past series? You guys who come on regularly, you know we like to try to be interactive and engaging. We do not want this just to be about Cherie and I's experiences. We want to try and talk about that with you all and how does it look in your world. But what does that look like, baby? Physical intimacy to you. What does that look like and how have you grown in that area?
Physical intimacy for me is just wanting to be in a person's presence, in their physical space, being able to be present in their space.
You said wanting.
Wanting. It's wanting to be in that person's, because you can be in somebody's space and you don't really want to be there.
Yeah.
But when I have a longing, a desire to want to be in your space, to me that's showing a sign of physical intimacy because I want to be near you. I want to be in proximity to you. For me,
I just want to be where you are.
So for me,
dwelling daily in your presence.
Physical intimacy for me, with my children in particular, is I just want to hang out with them. I just want to be in their presence. It's not, we don't have to be doing anything special. We don't have to, like my grandkids, they'll come over and I'm perfectly fine. We can sit around the house and not do anything.
Yeah.
We don't have to go out and be doing stuff all the time. We don't have to have this planned agenda all the time. It's just being in each other's presence. And the thing that I love about our grandkids, they both will come up to us and be like, hey, can I just spend some time with you?
Yeah, they'll ask it just like that.
Can I hang out with you? Can I spend some time with you guys alone today? Without each other.
Yeah, without the sibling.
They're getting at that age now. But they'll want, like, even when we were on vacation, Mimi, our youngest, came up to me one day and was like, Gran, I'm going to hang out with you today.
Right.
I was like, okay. And so she and I hung for a couple of hours. Just everywhere I went, she went with me. If I walked to the beach, I went and got in the hot tub. She wanted to get in the hot tub with me. I mean, we just sat around, played with her with dolls. It was just spending time, and that shows physical intimacy.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it, guys. So we're going to get into today's subject, and I appreciate that Nikkei said that it's okay to want to just cuddle.
Yes.
It's okay. Closeness and intimacy doesn't always have to be sexual, and it's okay just to want to be together without sex.
Yes.
And she continues to say, it's okay.
It's okay.
And one of the things that I sit and I listen to that, because in our culture, that's not okay sometimes.
Right, right.
You meet people, and I don't mean no harm, but growing up for me, closeness meant that it was going somewhere further.
Right, it had to go to the next level.
There was always this, so what's the next level?
Right.
Anybody ever have a chance to sit down to a great breakfast, right? And you're not quite finished that breakfast, and you're thinking about, so what we going to do for lunch? and listen, my foodies understand.
Or the people that come to, and I'm going to talk about my coworkers, coming to work first thing in the morning. What we eating for lunch today, y'all?
First,
like it's 8:00 in the morning,
bruh. Like
we got to start talking about that now.
Can we enjoy this moment, right? That is funny. So I said all that to say, guys, that a lot of times what we don't do is we do not focus on the moment, and I think that there's so much value. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this past week of just being
in the moment
and
on
vacation. It allowed me to honor and to take the value, or take it in, the value of being in the moment.
Right, and I have to give you your kudos. I'm super, super proud of you. We've never, in 22 years, getting ready to be 22 years, of being together, ever gone on a vacation where Glenn has not snuck to be on the phone or been on the computer, whether it was when he was in ministry, when he was working in the radio industry. That's always been something that has been a major pull on him. And I'm super proud of you that you honestly, and I can attest, he did not get on his phone. Other than to take pictures, and even that was limited. He did not sneak. He wasn't checking stuff. People were emailing me, texting me. I mean, I had posted something because I had to greet somebody in our business community. I got DM messages from people, get off on. I'm like, hey, whoa, okay, let me get off, But he didn't do anything.
Matter of fact, Teresa said she was low key looking for me to jump on. She was hiding out, waiting for me to jump on so she could blast me.
Right, but I just want to tell you, I'm super proud of you, and I appreciate that,
welcome.
And I'm glad that you were able to disconnect. And I know that's something that I have expressed to you has been a concern of mine, because you get so, I know that's part of your job, but you get so caught up in everything that's going on in the world, everything that's going on with everybody else, that oftentimes you don't get to focus on what's here in the present.
Facts.
And so I really appreciate you doing that. I look forward to you doing it again.
Well, no, let me say this. Now, I appreciate that, babe. But guys, what that did for me was it showed me, one, it could be done. It also showed me the value of doing it. And it also led me to say, I want that again. I want the value of being present. I want what comes with being in. We went over our kids' house last night. And because I was thinking about them all week, my daughter and her husband and our grandkids don't live very far from us. And I said, what your kids doing tonight? And she was like, I don't know. Why don't you text them? So I texted them, and they weren't doing anything. And then Jasmine and Jalen, our niece and her boyfriend, who don't, they stayed with her father and Cherie's brother, which again is not far. And we all kind of reconnected and hung out. And
Justin called.
And then Justin called. Like he FaceTimed us. And so we were all, it's like the crew kind of came back together. And I just, there was just this satisfying feeling. And so what it did is it helped me to honor the boundary. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit, of what it looks like to put up a property line.
Right.
So I want you guys to just hang tight. We're going to go in for a few minutes and we're going to pull this apart over the month of October. Today is really just an introduction, just to kind of talk about what that looks like. And again, I'm not perfect. I told y'all already, there were times where I jumped on my phone and out of habit, I found myself looking at social media and I'm like, then it dawned on me, bro, you're not supposed to be on. The fact that I could catch myself is a win because that's not normal. It's normal for me to get caught up in that world and go further and not pull myself back. And so I realized, just side note, I'm going on a 21-day no sugar fast starting October the 1st. I'm putting that out to my community, my tribe, and all of you guys to get clarity. I also want to work on this book that I started and I wrote in a complete outline for it. And in there, I'm going to be picking days here and there where I will just flat out come off of social media, just random, just will not show up. And when I say show up, meaning I won't be actively engaging people.
Right.
And I'm practicing that. It's going to get to a place where I want to build up where I can jump off for 30 days at a time to go get clarity. And that's tough for me. Like Cherie said, it's part of my job. I do a lot of marketing and whatnot on social media and that sort of stuff. So it's tough for me to draw the line. And so you are welcome. So here's what I wanted, guys. When you hear of a boundary, what do you hear? What do you hear? No worries, Christine. I got you, girl. What do you hear when you hear the word boundary? I want you to put that in the chat. When you hear the word boundary, what do you hear? Put that in the chat. When you hear the word boundary, what do you hear? One of the things that I want to really quickly talk a little bit about is what boundaries are not. Okay? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the title and description today. We talked about fixing broken fences.
Right.
And one of the things that I want you guys to understand is that that looks like something. So I want you to put in the chat real quick. We're not going to be super long today. I just want to kind of begin this sort of introduction a little bit on what boundaries are not. So when you hear boundary, what do you hear? Teresa said limited. Love it, love it. Nikkei said fences, sectioning off an area. Ooh, that's powerful, Nikkei. That's good. You got anything?
No, I was going to tell you, it's interesting that you use the term. We use the term broken fences, a gate. Those are things when I think of a boundary, and I was laughing to myself because we were listening to Trevor Noah last night.
Oh my
and
gosh,
he was talking about the
he
wall.
is hilarious.
About Trump wanting to build this wall.
But
a wall is a type of a boundary, but it's not the best type of boundary.
Correct.
Because
we'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about why a wall is not a good boundary.
Yeah.
But a fence, a gate, a door.
Right.
Can be a good boundary.
So, guys, when we talk about boundaries, one of the things that I want to fundamentally help you guys understand is that boundaries are designed to do two things fundamentally. Fundamentally, boundaries are designed to do two things. They protect and they provide. Put that in the chat. They both protect and they provide. They protect you from danger. They protect you from toxic stuff, crap, things that you do not need to be involved with. But they also provide freedom.
And they provide safety. They provide comfort.
Absolutely. And so if a boundary in a relationship is erected healthy in a really productive way, it will give you those two things. So when we talk about what boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not designed to wall you off completely from something else. They're not, listen, let me say it this way. Boundaries in relationships should not be designed.
Walls.
Now, there are times where a wall is necessary. If you've ever gone down the street, and we've experienced this just this week, going up and down the road, driving on road trips, you guys have seen these boundaries, or what they call these
Jersey walls.
These Jersey walls, or either you ever see those really high walls on the side of the roads?
That's a Jersey wall, isn't it?
No, the Jersey wall is a short one.
Oh, what's the big one
But
called?
that's a sound resistant wall, and that wall is designed to keep the sound of the highway on the highway and not in the neighborhood that's right behind that wall, right? It's not designed for people to, well, it's partly designed for people not to climb it and get themselves
and
in
for
trouble.
Cars not to drive through.
And for cars, but if you ever notice, they're generally very far off the road. Right? So it's not going to keep a car from immediately going off the road. That would be a guardrail.
Right.
Another kind of boundary, right? But the truth is guys, boundaries are designed to keep you focused and to keep you in your lane. And I think in relationships, babe, what people don't understand is that lanes are blurred. You don't have a line. Believe it or not, when you ride down the street on a road, a boundary doesn't have to be something that's super high.
Right.
It can be something that's super visible.
Right.
So, for instance, the yellow lines down the middle of a divided highway, they're not high, but they're visible even in the rain. And what that does is it keeps you in your what? In your lane.
And that's a great example, actually, as you're saying it. I'm thinking about, okay, so there are the broken lines on the road, and then there's a solid line. The reason why those type of boundaries often don't work is people don't understand what the boundary is.
Oh, that's good.
They don't understand what type of boundary it is, because how many times are you driving down the road and a person crosses the solid line and changes lane?
Right.
You're not supposed to cross when there's a solid line. You're supposed to wait until there's a break in the line. And then there are even like on streets where you can make, when you want to pass somebody.
Yes.
You're only supposed to pass when there are broken lines.
Correct. Not
when there's a solid line. And so the other part of boundaries is, even though there are different types of boundaries, you have to communicate what that boundary is to the people outside of the boundary, or the people that you're erecting the boundary for, so they know what it means. Mm-hmm. Because to me, a broken line, a solid line is just, okay, that's my lane, but it may not mean that I can't cross over into another lane.
Right.
If I don't understand that that's the meaning of it.
Right.
And so that has to be communicated. And oftentimes when people erect boundaries in their relationships, we'll erect a boundary, but we don't communicate that to anybody else. So I done put this boundary up, and people, one boundary often, like with people with children, you'll have this boundary, this unspoken boundary: when my door is closed, don't come in.
Right.
But if you don't communicate that to your children regularly,
right,
because children forget.
Yep.
You will inevitably have your children walk into your room at a time when it's not ideal.
Right. Hello? If you've been married for any length of time, you understand what I'm talking about.
And that is a boundary that's been crossed that can be detrimental to you as well as to the child.
Traumatic even. Hello? We're not going to get into that today because that's not the subject, but y'all know what we mean. So today we're beginning to unpack. Over the next few weeks, we're going to drill down on these few things. I want y'all to put this in the chat. When we're talking about boundaries in relationships, so we just got finished helping you guys understand what physical boundaries look like. We said that in relationships, those physical boundaries don't work. Walls don't work.
Right.
Guardrails don't work. Lines don't work. Gates work, but they have to be constructed in a way that people know what they are. Cherie talked about communication. Most people feel like because they said it, they communicated it, and that's not true. When we talk about communication, we're talking about training.
Right. Right.
We're talking about you training a person to see and understand and respect your boundary.
Right, right.
That's a training process that most people don't know how to do for themselves, let alone for other people. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about boundaries from this standpoint. I want you to put this in the chat. Feelings. Couples, you definitely want to chime in for that particular subject. Feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. Listen to me very carefully, guys. This is going to help you significantly. Behaviors. Okay? Behaviors. There are certain behaviors that should exist inside of a boundary. Let me give you a quick example, because parents, that's going to be y'all's day. Listen to me very carefully. When your children cut up in the supermarket, but they don't cut up at home, or when they cut up in the supermarket and you begin to say, we don't act like this, but they act that way at home, what you're saying is that behavior that they demonstrated in the supermarket is okay somewhere. So because it's okay somewhere, they have been trained that it's okay to do it anywhere.
Right, right.
And that's not true.
Right.
So those behaviors need to be placed in boundaries. We're going to get into that. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about values. Where does boundaries come in when it comes to values? And we may get into limits. There are certain limits, and we're going to be talking about this in our MAPS Relationship Academy, and we're going very, very deep, both in the marriage or the couples community, the parenting community, the singles community. We're going to be talking about this, and we're going to be unplugging and unpacking this in a way that helps you specifically. If you're not a part of our MAPS Relationship Academy, this may be a time for you to become a part of it. It's a group coaching platform that Cherie and I do. It'll be 4 years now that we've been doing this platform, where people come in and we actually get into your personal business and we talk about, how do we fix this thing?
Right.
How do we help you in this specific area? Go to glennpbrooksjr.com.
Right.
Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Trying to get all black behind
there.
it. Right there.
Right there.
And sign up for a free discovery session. And the reason why is because we want you to be able to jump on a call with us, and we'll determine if you're a fit, and we'll tell you a little bit more about how you can join that community. We meet throughout the week in the evenings. Each group has its own day, and we certainly want to make sure that you get to be a part of that. So go ahead, sign up now, schedule some time where you can get with me, and I'll jump on a call with you for a few minutes, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. Guys, let me say this, and Cherie's going to jump in before we get out of here. This one area right here will ruin a good relationship. Let me say it again. This one area called boundaries, being able to do it effectively can make the difference in a relationship going from to, oh my God, I can't believe that I get to live in this kind of a scenario. Or it can make a relationship that's going really great go south real fast.
Right. And even for those of you that are parents, boundaries are something you need to learn how to erect and how to teach your children how to put boundaries in place. Because when they become adults, if they've never learned about boundaries and how to put boundaries in place, they will cross over people's boundaries. They'll have problems in their career. They'll have problems in their future relationships. And so it's essential that, we all learn about boundaries, learn how to put healthy boundaries in place and how to respect other people's boundaries. One last piece I did want to say, when we think about boundaries, we talked about them being walls, gates, fences. The key to boundaries is a boundary has to have a point of entry and a point of exit.
Ooh.
Whatever type of boundary you put up, a boundary is not, that's why we said a wall is not a good boundary in relationships. You don't build a boundary to wall yourself off. Because when you wall yourself off, you're not able to give or receive from other people. And so there has to be a point of entry or exit where you're able to let people in. You're able to come out and join other people. So there's a place where you can interact with others. But if you put up a wall, then you are walling yourself off completely. And therefore, there's no relationship because you've isolated yourself. You're in such a protective mode that you're just, I'm going to shut myself off from everybody and protect myself. That may be great if you want to be a hermit, but if you want to be in relationships, you have to have a point of entry and exit where you can interact with other people.
Absolutely. So, guys, with that being said, we're going to get ready to jump off for today. But next week and the subsequent weeks after, I think there are 5 Saturdays in October, wrapping up on Halloween. We're going to show up and we're going to unpack this stuff in ways that I think will really, really help you. We certainly want to encourage you, if you're not a part of a growing community of people who are intentionally trying to help you grow your relationships, we want to encourage you to come join the MAPS Relationship Academy, whether you're a couple, whether you're a parent, whether you're single, maybe you're just an individual, male or female, and you're just trying to figure out what does this look like for you personally. We've got programs that can fit everybody in that particular of those categories. It can fit your needs, and we certainly want to certainly come grow with us. I encourage you to come grow with us. Go to GlennPBrooksJr.com, GlennPBrooksJr.com. It's right there. Right there. And sign up for a free discovery session, and we would love to jump on a call with you.
And also, if you are new to our channel, we want to welcome you to our YouTube channel. We ask you to please subscribe and ring the bell so that you can get notifications when we go live or when we post videos. And at the end of the
we're over 700 subscribers.
Right, we're shooting for 1,000 before the end of the year. So please
before we get to our 100th
out.
episode, which will be before the end of the year.
Yes, please share this out.
Yep.
Please ask your friends and family to join, to subscribe, if this has been of value to you. And as always,
we all need
some help. Y'all have a great Saturday, and we will see you guys soon.
Yes, we will. Y'all be good. Bye-bye.